A Trip to Mississippi by Ludwig Bemelmans. Some of the men are released from here as cured, others are transferred. One man is released for some reason that no one can understand. He has murdered a man, is degenerate and awful looking. He is not sent home, but allowed the freedom of the hospital. And they have sent him to me for work. I have put him into the kitchen where he peels potatoes. He has the little knife in his hand, and I am afraid he will use it some day. But it is the only work we can give him. Even the kitchen gang is scared of him, and they watch him from the side. He shouted at Mulvey to stop singing, and Mulvey, who would not stop for a sane man twice the size of this patient, was quiet for a long time. The men who are sent home have in most cases a guard to take care of them and deliver the patient safely. In this way our men travel all over the country. There is a considerate arrangement to give all the men trips and turns are taken. Most men are chosen so that they can take prisoners to the places where their own homes or which are their own homes or in the vicinity of the cities from where they come. And in this again is evident the interest in the men and the latitude the government allows in making the duty of army life as easy as possible. Besides, there is a great generosity on the part of the government in conducting these trips. On overnight or very long trips, sleepers are provided. Meals may be taken in the dining car, and even short rides are luxurious in upholstered coaches. Not as in Germany, where soldiers travel in the baggage car or in the fourth class, which has benches of wood. Besides that, our pay is good, our meals are fine, we receive 10% extra because there is a war, besides a few dollars more for this or that. It is altogether very decent and liberal. I cannot believe myself to be an American just because I have a citizen paper, even if I am in the army, but I could not think of myself as a patriot for any nation. This is interesting to me, and I am thankful that there is little or no patriotism among the soldiers. They will fight and even be killed, but they do it, even the crude ones, with the same feeling as if they were repairing a truck and it rolled over them. This seems a bigger field of sentiment and thinking than the Germans are capable of, and I think it makes men better soldiers. The Germans are tied up with 3 holy grails. They constantly shout and march around with them, and it seems too few to me. Also, they are too subordinate and think too little of themselves. They are willing to be kicked as long as there is someone below to whom they can pass the kick. But this is also wrong because there are magnificent people among them, and I have often set my mind never again to speak or think of nations in the mass. Even if there are only a few among them that are good, it is unfair, and it is fine of the Americans that now, here in the war, they let me speak German, tell me that Germany is beautiful, and don't say a word that I have a stack of German books and many German ideas. I am truly thankful for all this and respect it. I have often talked to Beardsley of such ideas, that I do not believe that all men are created equal, and many other things. He calls that nickel philosophy. A nickel is a 5-cent piece in the meaning of this criticism. On the railroad stations of Buffalo and all other cities are buffets with Red Cross ladies who stuff the soldiers with cookies, chocolate, and candies, also coffee. One does not have to take a train to get that at any time. They speak a lot and are too sweet, but they mean well, and some of them are even young and beautiful. It is my duty to take a man back home. I think this is because none of our men come from Mississippi, and I have told the man who assigns patients that I would like to go anywhere, far away if possible, to the state of Wyoming, Montana, or Colorado, but this trip is to Mississippi. Mississippi is filled with colored people, and so is the patient I am taking there. This man, a Negro, is a maniac of the violent type. He has not been a soldier, but a civilian employee, who was apparently mad when he got into work for the army. Therefore, he is not under complete protection of the military, but he is a United States citizen, and his part of the country is responsible for him. Although he is not a soldier, he has a uniform. My orders are to deliver him to the civil authorities of Purvis, Mississippi. Nobody here knows where that is, but I have a long ticket. It is about 3 feet and of many different colors, and at the end of the many connected papers is one printed, "From Jackson to Purvis, Mississippi." Ahead of Jackson come many towns. In one, Cincinnati, we have to change trains. I receive the papers, an order in which my authority and instructions are made clear, a paper which is the receipt from the government for my patient, and also the instructions to bring the straitjacket back with me. The red-headed Irishman gives me some advice before I go. I asked if it is possible at times to let the man loose in his straitjacket because the trip is long and his arms in them must become dead, but he forbids this under all circumstances, not even to undo it one notch. Then I see the man. He is very big and already tied up in his jacket. It has a stiff collar and his arms are tightly bound to his sides. He is being fed. The feeding is the same procedure as with all these cases. The attendant takes the man's head in the crook of his elbow and with a spoon goes quickly into his mouth when the patient opens it, which sometimes he must be forced to do. The spoon is then taken out very quickly, or he will chew it up and not let it go. I am not very certain now that this will end right. The man is a good deal higher than I, and I think much stronger. Even with his arms bound, he has the use of his legs and his teeth. But the Irishman says he is stupid, and not to be afraid, and not to let him ever know I am afraid. Besides, I want to make this trip very badly. I also have my .45 Colt with me. The authorities here know nothing about the experience in Ward Number 3. Here again, America is fine. I remember in Germany, in a boarding school, a little boy had done something bad in the first class. His teacher put remarks of this and about his character into the papers, and they traveled with him all through his school years, so that every new teacher knew what he was like, and he never could enter clean into a new classroom and start with freedom. The complete authority over another human being, such as I have, now frightens me. I make up my mind that I will be more than kind to him. The ambulance of the Fort Hospital takes us down to the train in Buffalo. I have talked to the patient in quiet words as the Irishman talks when there are no troubles, but he does not hear or answer me. He rolls his eyes, and I hope, if an attack comes, it is here in the ambulance where I have trained aid, someone who knows what to do. As I get him on the train and have both hands busy pushing him up the stairs of the car, a little boy comes and wants to take my gun. His mother just pulls him away. These children need a little order in their lives. I have often observed that. When we are on the train, the porter says that I cannot go into the sleeper with a colored man, but I explain to him that we must be together, and that it is the order of the United States Army. That seems not to impress him, but he looks at our tickets, and, because he is a colored man himself, he changes our berth to one close to the door, and below one which is not occupied. After dinner is served for the other passengers, we go into the dining room and order some food for the patient. Then I have to feed him. I have so far hidden his straitjacket under his army coat, but now I have to put the coat away so that I can hold him. All the waiters in this dining car are colored, and they stand around while he is fed. He does not look at them or say anything while he eats. Only his eyes are like those of a scared horse, and he gets a hold of the tip of the spoon, but I manage to bend it out of his teeth. The waiters are ready to help me. They all look as scared as the patient, and they cannot go away and do their work. They seem very unhappy. To go to bed is a large problem. The bed is wide enough, and I am tired and don't mind sleeping next to the man, but I am afraid that he might bite my ears or nose off during the night, and there is also the possibility that he might get loose. We have some straps that the porter got me, and rope and strings. With these I tie my patient loosely to his corner, where the baggage net is. This net comes off, and I put it over his head. Then the porter tells me I can have the vacant upper berth, so I take a long piece of string and bind it around the man's neck, and have it run up to my berth, where I attach it to my wrist in case he should break loose. But I cannot sleep, and neither can he. Therefore I sit up and untie him again and talk with the porter. As to everybody, I have to explain to him why I am in the American Army and not in the German. The next morning I wash the patient and give him his breakfast. There are some people here in the dining room, and again I have to explain the whole business to them, and they ask me if I am not afraid. I am no longer, but I was up to now. We are coming into Cincinnati. At a station, just before we get there, arrives a very elegant young woman who is smartly dressed with an intelligent, direct face of a very efficient body. She wears a suit of smoky gray with some color, that of eggplant in its design. This color seems also to be in her eyes. This young woman comes over to the table after I have fed the patient again, and is the first who does not ask questions, but talks, and I find out that she has been to Innsbruck. She knows also the Cogwheel Railroad to Oberbosen, also Munich. Of this city she knows all my favorite streets, the radish women, the women who sit in the rain and change the tracks of the streetcar, the little restaurant behind Frauenkirch, and she has been to the lovely marionette theater of Papa Schmidt on the Promenade Platz. She lives in Cincinnati, and there is a stop between trains of almost a day before I can go on to Jackson. In Cincinnati there are again the welcome boys signs, and the ladies. We get coffee and cake. There is also a large dance that evening at a house of the girl's friends, and she asks me to dinner. There is only the patient whom I cannot very well bring. He is completely absent in mind and has not said a word all this time. He follows me wherever I go and makes no sign of trouble. This party seems to be fine. On the station are several more girls. They all have lovely ankles, well-ordered hair, and good clothes. Therefore, I have an idea. I ask a policeman where headquarters are, and we get into one of the girls' cars and drive to the station. It is in a large building in the center of the town, up a hill from the depot. A lieutenant of police is at the desk. I ask him if I could leave the patient with him for a day. This is, of course, an offense, but the man can do no harm with a lot of big police around him, and besides, I would mind it only if he were aware of it. In his eyes there is nothing, nor in his entire person. He is numb and does not know what goes on around him or where he is, or who he is. First, I have to explain to the lieutenant and to all the police why I am in the American army and not the German. Then they speak German to me, almost all of them, and finally the lieutenant says I can leave the patient. It is all right with him, and not against regulations. Only I have to pay 75 cents for his food and keep. That is all right, and they all laugh again because I still have a purse to keep my money in. On it is a picture of Klaubenstein in Tyrol, and under it in golden letters is written, "Greetings from beautiful Klaubenstein." Then I am given a receipt, and they take the patient away. This is a guilty thing to do, and I feel as if I were leaving a child alone. But they promise to be nice to him, and also not to open the